There's always coping tools, not just this 5, that will help you feel more regulated and grounded, paying attention to the words that are going on in your head, helping you regulate your breath, helping you redirect that energy. You can still do that with other coping tools that are not yoga and meditation. Welcome to Therapy Explained, where we explain, demystify, and destigmatize mental health and mental health treatment. My name is Deniss. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and your very own mental health cheerleader. If you aren't already subscribed to this channel, make sure that you do, because I make videos about all things mental health. If you're already subscribed, then you probably already know that every video comes with its own cheat sheet that I make available to you on Instagram. And if you didn't already know that, make sure that you're following me there at Talk Therapy so that you can have access to yours. Today's video is all about anxiety and coping skills for anxiety, and my top 5. Surprisingly, none of them are yoga or meditation. So let's go ahead, jump right into it. My top 5 coping skills for anxiety. Number 1, deep breathing. Now, before I lose you, it's all about starting small. No, taking a deep breath is not going to make your anxiety go away. It might not work all of the time, and even when it does, it won't necessarily, again, make your anxiety go away completely. But the reason that learning how to take deep breaths, not just one, but a series of deep breaths, anywhere from 3 to 5, is because what you're doing is training your body to relax. Now, I have a video about anxiety, so make sure that you watch that, where I explain a little bit about what tends to cause our anxiety and where we tend to feel it and what to do to help us manage it. But as far as taking deep breaths go, the reason that they're important, the reason why learning to relax our body is important, is because your body right now is feeling the opposite way. You're most likely going to be taking shallow breaths, which reduces the amount of oxygen in your brain, increases the amount of carbon dioxide in your brain, and that makes it more difficult for you to feel grounded. That's what creates that panicky feeling. So the more that we can introduce oxygen into your brain, the calmer that you will feel, and the easier it will be over time for you to feel relaxed quicker. So basic breaths are very important. There's all kinds of basic breaths I teach. I'm calling it a basic breath, and that's what I teach all of my clients. So that's taking a deep breath in for 4 counts, holding it for 2, and exhaling for 6. And when you exhale for a really long time, again, you're teaching your body to relax, to slow down, and you're also exhaling that carbon dioxide. So make sure, as long as you're taking deep breaths where you're filling up your lungs, where your belly is getting big, and exhaling all of the air in your body. Again, there's many types of breaths. There's the box breath. I think there's like a 2-5-6. There's different kinds. But again, what's important is that you're breathing in and that out breath is longer than your in breath. So breathing in through your nose, exhaling through your mouth for much longer. Tactile grounding tools, also known as fidget toys. You're probably already familiar with this. There was a time where they were extremely popular. I still think that they're great. I know that it got a little bit difficult with the amount of noise that they were making, but there's other things that you can do and tools that you can use that are not loud. Some of the things that I like to recommend to my clients are things like Play-Doh, rubber bands, magnets. So things that will cause or that have the ability for you to use tension within those tools. So that Play-Doh, you can squeeze it, you can rip it apart, you can pull it apart, and the Play-Doh will be fine. You can put it back together. Same for rubber bands. They can take a lot of tension, a lot of repetitive motion if you feel like you need it. And again, those magnets, they're pulled towards each other, so kind of pulling them apart can be pretty helpful. The reason why tactile grounding tools or fidget toys can be helpful is because your anxiety is happening in your body as well. Right? So you might feel restless. You kind of need to do something with your hands. That's why a lot of us will bite our nails or we'll break things that are in our hands. And if we have something that we can direct that energy to that isn't hurtful to us, that isn't damaging our pens, that isn't too loud, can assist us in that regulation. And what we want to learn, as you noticed with our previous coping tool, is that self-regulation, is that ability to redirect that energy and calm our bodies down away from the anxiety, because the anxiety is what gets us going and feeling very overwhelmed. So we want to kind of go against that and bring ourselves back. That's why we call it grounding. Number 3, journaling. Now, this is one of my favorite things to recommend, and that's because when you're feeling overwhelmed, if you can either journal out what is going through your head, just write it out so that it's not living in your head. You can also even do like voice memos, like record yourself as you're talking through your anxious thoughts. That can be helpful. And that's the key. It's talking through it, kind of really thinking through what's going on in your head, those scary thoughts, those fearful thoughts that might be coming up for you. Expressing them through writing can be very powerful, or just with that voice memo, it can also be really powerful to just let it out. It also lets you do that thinking through, connecting the dots. So what am I afraid of? And it creates a space for you to ask yourself those questions. Where is this fear coming from? Sometimes when we're triggered or anxiety is too big, we can't do any of that processing, and that's okay. Just let it out. Just let out what's going on for you. And journaling and voice memos can be really helpful because we're recording what's going on for us during our anxiety. Rereading our journal entries and listening to those voice memos is the next step, which I know sounds like really uncomfortable to have to go through some of our anxious thoughts or listen to some of our anxious expressions or things that we're feeling, but that's why it's so important, so that we can pay attention to what's going on for us when we're anxious. It's hard to remember, I don't know, I was just afraid, or I don't know, I was just anxious. But when we listen to it, we can think, oh wow, I really jumped 10 steps, or I'm connecting dots that shouldn't really be connected. And that's what's helpful. Now, if you are in therapy or have a therapist, this could be a really good tool to bring into your therapy. If you feel that reading through your journal or listening to the voice memo might be too triggering for you, you can always do it in the room with your therapist. They can help you feel regulated and create that safe space to open that up, and then they can also help you put yourself back together. But journaling can be really great for that kind of thing. It also helps you redirect your thoughts and energy into something more productive. If you're having those scary thoughts, they don't just live in your head. You're expressing them, you're focusing on something else. So it can also be pretty grounding. Number 4, coloring. So coloring is one of those things that can kind of take us away from these scary thoughts. You know, we're talking about deep breathing, which is like grounding ourselves, or journaling, or the fidget spinners or fidget toys, and that really kind of addresses what's going on for us right now and kind of taking us back. Now, coloring might feel like a completely out of nowhere coping tool, but it's really useful because if you're feeling that restlessness, having to sit down and color between the lines helps. It brings us back and away from that restlessness. Again, remember, the theme here is bringing us back to our body and regaining that sense of control that we need, right? Because right now we feel out of control. So when we're coloring, we don't necessarily have to go towards the scary thoughts. We're kind of going away from it, redirecting our thoughts and energy into coloring, and then that rhythmic motion of our hands can also be pretty therapeutic. You're just coloring. And lastly, thought challenging. Now, if you're having a lot of cognitive distortions, which you most likely are if you're struggling with anxiety, it's important for you to be able to identify them and then directly challenge them. I have a whole video on cognitive distortions, and I also have a whole video on anxiety itself, so make sure to check those out for more information on that. But today, as far as cognitive distortions go, pay attention to them. If you're going to the worst case scenario or trying to read minds, if you're doing black and white thinking, like this is either going to go really well or I'm going to do really well, or there's just no point, it's going to go horribly, challenge those directly. Remember that there's a gray area. It's not completely black and white. Remember that you have no control over what other people say, think, do, or feel about you or anything else, right? What is in your control is taking care of yourself, and that is what all the coping tools are about. Helping you redirect your energy and your time into what's more productive, which is taking care of yourself. So if you're having any cognitive distortions, any sort of scary thoughts, challenge them directly. It will help you feel more grounded and more in control because you're able to identify, okay, this is what's happening, these are scary thoughts, and I can disengage from them instead of feeling completely overwhelmed by really scary things. Now, of course, I'm a fan of yoga and meditation. They're incredibly helpful because they directly address what tends to happen to us when we're experiencing anxiety. It's our head kind of coming up with really scary thoughts. It's our body feeling completely restless. It's our breathing feeling very rapid. And meditation and yoga bring us back, slow us down, and encourage us to be more mindful about the words that we're using with ourselves and what we're thinking. So yes, it can be great. But meditation and yoga, it's not for everyone. Yes, it's great, but not everyone likes it, and not everyone is ready to do it. So with that in mind, try one of these 5. Let me know if they work. They can also help you do many of those similar things. So there's always coping tools, not just this 5, that will help you feel more regulated and grounded, paying attention to the words that are going on in your head, helping you regulate your breath, helping you redirect that energy. You can still do that with other coping tools that are not yoga and meditation. So again, if you find any of them useful, let me know in the comments down below, or anything else actually. Remember that we're a community and we're constantly learning from each other, so let us know. As always, your cheat sheet is already available to you on Instagram, and as always, I'm gonna encourage you to give this video some love before you go. Whether that's a like, a comment, a subscription, or a share. It helps increase access to free mental health information and education, and it is greatly appreciated. And lastly, remember, I'm always cheering for you.